Canada is considering a significant new measure that could have wide-ranging implications. This measure involves imposing tolls on American commercial trucks that travel through Canada to reach Alaska, a route frequently used by these vehicles. The main reason for this proposal is ongoing trade tensions with the United States, which have been escalating over recent months. British Columbia is at the forefront of this initiative, given its strategic location and economic significance. Premier David Eby announced the potential for these tolls, stating it was a direct response to threats from the United States, which have included economic and political pressures. These threats included heavy tariffs on Canadian goods and concerning comments about Canadian sovereignty, which have raised alarms in Ottawa. British Columbia's geographical position is key, as many U.S. trucks pass through this province to get to Alaska, making it a critical transit point. The Canadian government views the proposed tolls as a defensive measure, not an act of aggression, aimed at protecting its economic interests. The introduction of tolls would add another layer of complexity, potentially reshaping how goods and services move across the continent, affecting supply chains. Both nations are watching closely, as the implications could be far-reaching for North American trade, potentially altering the economic landscape. The current situation did not arise in a vacuum. It has deep historical roots and is influenced by a complex web of economic and political factors. It is rooted in a period of escalating trade friction, which has been building up over the years. Former U.S. President Donald Trump played a significant role by imposing substantial tariffs on various Canadian goods, aiming to protect American industries. Steel and aluminum were notable targets, leading to significant economic impacts on both sides of the border. These actions caused considerable disruption to Canadian exporters and sparked retaliatory measures from Canada, further straining relations. Mr. Trump also made provocative statements, some of which questioned Canadian sovereignty, adding fuel to the fire. Such rhetoric created unease and contributed to a feeling of uncertainty in Canada, affecting public sentiment and political discourse. The United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, offered some stability, replacing the older NAFTA agreement, and aimed to modernize trade relations. Some tariffs imposed by Mr. Trump were paused under this new framework, providing temporary relief to affected industries. However, the underlying tensions did not fully disappear, as both nations continue to navigate a complex trade landscape. The specter of renewed American protectionism continues to loom, particularly with potential shifts in U.S. political leadership, which could alter the trade dynamics once again. Canada is therefore taking proactive steps, wanting to have tools ready to respond if necessary, ensuring they are not caught off guard. The proposed tolls are one such tool, representing a strategic decision to safeguard national interests. Canada aims to show it will defend its economic interests and will not passively accept measures it deems harmful, standing firm in the face of external pressures. To counter these perceived threats, British Columbia has introduced the Economic Stabilization, Tariff Response Act. Deputy Premier Nikki Sharma introduced the bill in the BC Legislative Assembly. The act is a direct response to potential U.S. tariffs, aiming to give the province powers to react swiftly. The act grants the British Columbia government significant authority, allowing the province to levy tolls or other fees on vehicles, including commercial trucks using BC's infrastructure. The bill has a defined lifespan, set to expire on May 28, 2027. Premier David Eby has been clear about the bill's purpose, describing it as a necessary response to an unprecedented threat from the U.S. The act is a tool kept in reserve, ready if needed. The proposed tolls could have significant effects on Alaska, the northernmost U.S. state that relies on overland routes through Canada. These routes are vital for certain goods, and if tolls are implemented, transportation costs will likely rise. This increase would affect businesses shipping to Alaska, and ultimately, Alaskan consumers could bear the burden, facing higher prices for essential items. Supply chains into Alaska could also face disruption, as many goods transported by truck are time-sensitive. Fresh produce is a prime example, and the oil and gas industry also relies on truck transport. Alaska's economy is unique, with specific logistical challenges. The tolls could add another layer of complexity, worrying Alaskan business leaders and officials. The Alaska Trucking Association has voiced deep concern. Jamie Benson from the association highlighted potential problems, including higher costs and disrupted supply chains. Alaskan officials are monitoring the situation closely. The proposed Canadian tolls have not gone unnoticed in the United States. There has been talk of potential countermeasures. One significant threat has come from U.S. Senator Dan Sullivan of Alaska. He suggested a specific economic action against British Columbia. This action targets BC's thriving cruise ship industry. The senator proposed waiving a federal U.S. law. This law is the Passenger Vessel Services Act. It has important implications for cruise routes. The Passenger Vessel Services Act currently requires a stop in a foreign port. This applies to foreign-registered cruise ships. Most large cruise ships are foreign-registered, therefore they must stop in a Canadian port. British Columbia ports like Vancouver and Victoria benefit greatly. If this requirement is waived, ships could sail directly. They would bypass BC altogether. This would be a major blow to the province. A waiver would have severe consequences for British Columbia's economy. The response to U.S. trade pressure is not limited to British Columbia. In fact, the entire nation is rallying together to address these challenges. Other parts of Canada are also signaling their resolve. From the Atlantic provinces to the prairies, a unified front is being presented. A Team Canada approach appears to be emerging. This collective effort underscores the importance of national unity in the face of external pressures. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has been critical of past U.S. tariffs. He has consistently voiced his opposition to these measures. He called Mr. Trump's 25% tariffs on Canadian goods very dumb. This strong language reflects the frustration felt by many Canadians. The federal government announced its own retaliatory tariffs in response. These measures are designed to protect Canadian interests. The Prime Minister's stated goal is the removal of all tariffs between the two countries. He believes that free trade benefits both nations. Ontario, Canada's most populous province, is also considering action. The province is exploring various measures to counteract the tariffs. Premier Doug Ford has indicated plans for a surcharge. This move is part of a broader strategy to protect Ontario's economy. This would be a 25% surcharge on electricity. The surcharge aims to offset the economic impact of U.S. tariffs. It would apply to electricity bound for the United States. This is significant given Ontario's role as a major energy exporter. Ontario is a major energy exporter to some U.S. states. The province's energy exports are crucial for both economies. Further west, the Yukon Territory has also announced measures. These steps are part of a broader national strategy. Yukon shares a border with Alaska. This geographic proximity makes their actions particularly impactful. Premier Ranj Pillai outlined several steps. These measures are aimed at reducing reliance on American products. These include stopping the purchase of American products for government use. This move is intended to bolster local industries and reduce economic dependency. Implementing tolls on commercial trucks heading to Alaska presents logistical questions. However, it is generally considered technically feasible. Trucks traveling these routes already make mandatory stops. They stop at way stations for inspections and weight checks. These existing checkpoints could potentially be adapted. They could serve as locations for toll collection. This would minimize the need for entirely new stopping points. However, British Columbia and the Yukon do not currently have toll stations on these highways. The Alaska Highway, a key route, runs from Dawson Creek, BC to Fairbanks, Alaska. At present, U.S. truck traffic can travel through BC duty-free on this highway. Implementing tolls would require new infrastructure. This might involve constructing toll booths or electronic tolling systems. It would also require administrative systems for collection and enforcement. These are not insignificant undertakings. The proposal for tolls on U.S. trucks is more than just an economic measure. It carries significant implications for U.S. Canada relations. This relationship has historically been strong. It is often cited as a model of international cooperation. The two countries share the world's longest undefended border. They also have deeply integrated economies. However, this new assertiveness from Canada signals a shift. It indicates a willingness to push back against U.S. trade policies. The Team Canada approach, involving multiple provinces, sends a clear message. It tells the United States that Canada is united. It will defend its interests collectively. This coordinated response is noteworthy. It suggests a hardening of Canada's stance. While diplomatic channels remain open, the tone has changed. There is a greater emphasis on reciprocity and firmness. This could lead to a period of more transactional interactions. The traditional goodwill might be tested. The unfolding situation between Canada and the United States is complex. Canada's proposal to toll U.S. trucks bound for Alaska is a bold move. It underscores a new determination to protect Canadian economic interests. This has arisen in response to sustained trade pressures. The measures being considered are not taken lightly. They reflect a serious assessment of the current international trade environment. Canada is signaling it will not be a passive observer. The Economic Stabilization, Tariff Response Act in British Columbia is a key tool. It provides a legal framework for action. Similar sentiments and potential actions from other provinces like Ontario and Yukon amplify this message. This unified Canadian front is a significant development. It suggests a coordinated national strategy. The aim is to create leverage and deter what Canada sees as harmful U.S. policies. The resolve appears strong across the country.